So this is such a raw technology, just like internet. I know that Ethereum is good, but it's not going to scale.
You could see.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see how the federal government steps into like the state government, gives the security to them.
Yeah,
but the state government has its own sovereignty. I saw that parallel in Polkadot. Nerds love it, right? Space monkeys.
The launch team wishes you good luck and Godspeed.
Space Monkeys, blasting off with Dr. Radhakrishna Dasarir. He is the technical education lead at the Web3 Foundation. You know him as Radha. You see him on Twitter all the time, dropping little tidbits, helping us figure out what's going on. And we're very lucky to have him here. Radha, welcome to the show.
Yeah, very glad to be here and this beautiful weather in Barcelona.
Your general impressions on the ecosystem as of late?
Usually the impression is that we're all a bit like fragmented. Everybody is doing their own thing.
Yeah.
But I see it at the macro level that we're all coming together. And look at what we achieved yesterday night with the spamming campaign, right? So
yes.
100K TPS. I keep giving these talks, in the public over the last 3 years. I just only keep saying, hey, Polkadot could hit 100K TPS.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to flash it, with all the lights on the first slide.
Yes, nothing like showing what's really possible.
Exactly.
Proof of work in a way.
And I just talked to some of the engineers who work on that team. And then they're like, yeah, it feels very different when we can actually show that what we can do, right? Not totally. The hypothetical stuff.
Totally.
I think it's very needed, especially with so many people misleading others in the blockchain ecosystem in general.
Sure.
Proving something with data always has its impact.
You yourself, until kind of recently, you were actually on the outside of blockchain altogether.
Correct.
You weren't part of Web3. You were doing something totally different.
Exactly. So I was doing AI. So I was like a teaching professor at the University of Vermont for 3 years. And before that, my PhD was in computer vision, which is like a intersection of AI and some image processing.
Sure. Like what Tesla has been working on.
Correct. So their automatic, the autopilot, it sort of uses vision as one of its key sensors.
Yeah.
So yeah, very exciting technology. In fact, I even have a course on Coursera. If you're familiar, you can search for computer vision basics.
Yeah.
So it has about 80,000 learners already. So I built this when I was still teaching at the university.
Can you explain to us a little bit, how does a computer interpret photons?
Yeah, it's an interesting problem, right?
Uh-huh.
If you think of, I play cricket, as every other Indian who grew up in India. So you think catching the ball is something so easy. And then, if people are upset if you drop the ball.
Yeah.
But actually, if you look at it, the only signal you have are these photons.
Yeah.
There's this ball that is just flying in the air.
Yeah.
And then we as a humans, somehow look at that. And for us, this is a 2D image. At any point of time, if you just freeze the frame, it's a 2D image.
Sure.
You have multiple 2D images that are being processed in the visual cortex.
Yeah.
In that, you're calculating the whole trajectory and moving your motor muscles and then putting the hand exactly where it should be. And that's a miracle. And if you have to replicate the same thing with a computer, that's where the challenge is. So,
funny enough, I think we saw just 2 weeks ago, Tesla again, their bot caught a ball out of the air. Did you see that?
That's what I'm saying.
That's crazy.
Think of how much progress we had to make for that to make it happen.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I played some part in the whole trajectory there.
What part did you think you played? Was it? Do you think your research had a bigger impact, or your teaching had a bigger impact?
I think it's more. I would say my teaching definitely had more impact. Like I said, I had the opportunity to teach that course to multiple cohorts of students. And again, the Coursera course has 80,000 learners.
Amazing.
Who got introduced to computer vision. But that's the whole thing, right? I did that and somehow I pivoted to blockchain all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, AI is one of the hottest things going right now. What was it about your experience in AI that made you want to turn away?
if you think of it, most of the AI right now, since I started my grad school like in 2012, the concept of deep learning sort of emerged, where you're training an AI model with a lot of data. But you have no idea like how it is sort of interpreting that data or what kind of connections it's making to give that out.
Sure.
I've seen some ethical issues like sort of emerging, even with data acquisition or the way you train it. And also it's interesting that a lot of AI models only work for certain ethnic groups and not for others because, the data set is heavily of like one region or nationality or whatever. So So I was looking at all of this, and then also there were instances where the generative AI, even in its initial phases, has wreaked like havoc. I mean, people used to do like Photoshop and stuff, but Photoshopping like an entire video, it's something like unheard of, right? So making AI is getting to a place where you're unable to distinguish between what's like real and what's not real. So So I think my pivot to blockchain sort of happened in that timely window where I'm seeing blockchain as a technology that's more truth oriented. Right?
Gotcha, yeah. I mean, when you're talking about 2012, I remember from that time, like Google's Deep Mind Lab, was that what they were called? Deep Mind?
Yeah, IBM had one. And then, Google had like a heavy investment in...
They were like training it to like play Go or something like that. Like it was like harmless kind of. And now AI...
It creates films, like, it could actually analyze like your video feed and all the video lectures I did and, stage this interview like it happened.
So the misinformation generated by humans was bad enough, but now we're literally swimming in BS.
Yes.
And you see blockchain as some sort of technology that can verify what's true.
I mean, cryptography can help, right? So cryptography is great on its own, but bringing cryptography onto like a blockchain ledger and then having the social layer on top of it.
Sure.
Previously, the villagers, in the ancient world, they used to have a stone on which like they inscribe like stuff. And then there's this thing called a set in stone.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So in this digital world, if you have to set something in stone, you do it on blockchain.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's not like we are bringing a new utility. We're just, bringing the old constructs that we have about like trust and what's truth. We're trying to bring that to the digital realm, and blockchain is the technology that's going to do it. Like, and I'm very excited to be part of that, battling all this like fake, things generated by AI, which I worked in previously.
Yeah, that's awesome. So before you started the Web3 Foundation, did you already know about Polkadot, or did some other tech stack catch your eye and turn you on to this?
Yeah. So what happened was during, it was COVID time, right? Like we all went through that mass trauma. I was teaching classes, computer science, distributed systems, AI, and all of a sudden I heard of like Ethereum. So I'm like, interesting. Like, what are they doing? So with whatever distributed systems knowledge that I had from the courses I took at the grad school, I've seen, Ethereum is great. It's like the world computer. Everybody can have access to it. You need like this token, ETH, which was about like $350 at that time. I put some money in there.
Nice.
And then I've seen it go to like 1,200 or 1,800. And I'm like, then I got really curious. I mean, I've heard like things are like scammy in like blockchain world because I'm pretty mainstream back then.
Yeah.
But I saw the technology and then I'm like, I was curious, like, if there's so much demand for this token, there should be something useful happening there, right? So and then I've been introduced to all these like decentralized thoughts and thought leaders. I've seen the concept of DAO, which I felt was like very powerful.
Totally.
And in fact, like I'm very proud to be the largest part of the largest DAO out there, which is Polkadot now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's where the journey started. Like I really got plugged into the vision of like blockchain and like Web3. And then I was looking at, okay, so I know that Ethereum is good, but it's not going to scale.
You could see.
Yeah, I could see that. And I'm like, which technology stack is actually addressing this problem?
Yeah.
So that's when I looked at several designs. I mean, most of them were still reusing Ethereum stack to build like other chains.
Yeah.
But few stood out. Like there was Cosmos. That's what I looked at like initially. Beautiful like multi-chain design where, blockchains could be like their own countries sort of thing, which sort of communicate with each other independently. Great. But then I stumbled on like Polkadot, and the architecture was so elegant. I was living in the US at that time, and then I could see how the federal government steps into like the state governments, right? And then sort of gives the security to them. But the state government has its own sovereignty on several laws. So I saw that parallel in like Polkadot. So I was like, yeah, I'm living in this country, and there's like actually a digital nation of implementing something similar. And obviously I watched some of Gav's like videos, like launching blockchain in 30 minutes on a brand new MacBook.
Yeah, dude.
Right? So
of course.
As a computer scientist, like obviously it and interestingly, I looked at a technical educator position on Web3 Foundation website because, in all my research, I also stumbled on the careers page.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And then I looked at who is actually teaching there, and it's Bill Laboon.
Yeah.
And I looked at all of his like educational content online. I'm like, I can do it as well, right? So, so given
there you go.
I did like a Coursera course, with like 80,000 learners before.
Yeah.
I saw Bill doing like a similar course on blockchain, but he put it on YouTube. And that was my statement of purpose to Web3 Foundation. Hey, if you hire me, I'm going to scale Polkadot education. I'm going to bring that to the right kind of audience.
Yeah.
People who are like nerds. Nerds love it, right?
Yeah, we do. No doubt.
So that was my statement of purpose. I did the interview and I made the jump. I moved to Switzerland from the United States with one checked bag.
Okay.
Gave away all my stuff
in
the US. Big leap of faith.
Hardcore.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for you.
And I'm happy to talk about the last 3 years journey, but yeah, that's where I pivoted and sort of ended up here.
This idea of DAO excites you. Polkadot is an awesome DAO. I think there's some unofficial, never said out loud use cases for Polkadot to really occupy this network state position. Do you think about that network state idea? DAOs really scaling to the point of being not challenging, but at par with sort of nations?
There were scenarios when people asked me, like, why do you want to work for like this scammy, what do you call?
Like industry is like...
Not just like Polkadot, but there's a perception that the whole like blockchain is kind of a scam, right?
Yeah, it's 98% hustlers, man.
Yeah. And then I come from sort of like, my family is not like very technologically like well informed. They look at all the newspapers in India and then they're like, hey, it looks like you're moving from a very stable job, a very noble job, as being like a professor, to something like this. Are you sure? You're going to make a big leap from one continent to the other.
Yeah.
Are you sure? So I could only rely on the truth aspect of blockchain there, right? Like, yeah, I was pretty sure because looking at the caption of Web3 Foundation, less trust, more truth. And recently even like Hyperbridge sort of made a tweak, which I really liked, which is less trust, more proofs.
Yeah.
I saw the opportunity there, right? So I was already sold on the vision of Web3 giving user a lot more control. I lived in Vermont, beautiful place. So I took a lot of pictures of nature. I uploaded it to Adobe Stock. They charge the downloader like $10 and they give me 10 cents, right? So I saw many instances like these and I'm like, there is a way to reimagine like how we're transacting with each other digitally.
Yeah.
And blockchain was the answer that was like flashing around me. Right now, like my parents, they're very happy that I'm actually like working on this technology that is very less understood and more hyped about just because of the money aspect of it. But there's a lot more to it.
How long did it take you to get your mind around it where you were satisfied that you could have conversations with, the people you work with, Alistair, Jeff, people we've had on the show that can kind of blow the mind?
Yeah, it was an interesting journey. I would say like 2021 is when it was up only, right? So there was a lot of energy.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, it's very timely. 3 years back, exactly, there was a retreat in Barcelona.
Okay.
There's like Web3 Foundation and Parity. The energy was very different. You know, we've all been like very excited about how like the whole world is like receiving blockchain technology in general.
Yeah.
But again, like there weren't like many applications to sort of like back it, but still the excitement was there.
Yeah, just launching parachains, right?
Yeah, we
like
were launching
Kusama had just
parachains.
launched and Polkadot was coming, yeah.
Yeah, everything was like great. Like, you know, the vibes were impeccable.
Yeah.
So in that excitement, also like the first few months, I had to wrap around my head around where we are, how much is hype and how much is actually the truth.
Yeah.
Because if you look at like my original intention of coming here, I'm sort of like a truth seeker in a way.
Yeah.
So I didn't like buy into a lot of like hype that was going around either in Polkadot or blockchain. I wanted to go into the details. So I've read like the whole Polkadot paper, authored by, of course, like Jeff and Alistair or Gavin Wood. And so I looked at that technology. I being like a computer scientist, I can also read code. Of course, Rust was something new. But again, like it takes a little bit of time to get used to it, but you can read the code, right? So
Sure.
so that sort of gave me like more and more like confidence that, you know, there are people here. They're not scamsters. In fact, like my respect for all these programmers grew with the elegance of like, you know, the programs they've written, how efficient they are, because blockchains need to have like very efficient programming. You know, we're thinking of replicating the same stuff on like 1,000 different nodes. All of that has to run like very efficiently. And I think engineers at Parity and engineers in the ecosystem in general have been able to write, you know, that efficient code.
And now today, have you managed to achieve this initial mission of scaling education, or have you found yourself more pulled into one-on-one sort of education scenarios with, you know, VIP sort of people who need to understand something quickly?
Yeah. So like I said, my original intention was to put Polkadot in the map. So I did that. So I delivered the 2 courses, like one on blockchain and one on Polkadot, on a platform called edX. So edX is where like Harvard, MIT, all of them had like their massively open online courses. So
Gotcha.
My first 1 year, that was my target. You know, I've talked to Bill Laboon, but here's where I want to mention few issues with the ecosystem. We'll get to that in a little bit.
As you wish, yeah.
But I was on my own at the beginning. You know, so I reached out to like several people, but again, you have to understand everybody is very busy building Polkadot as we see it today.
Yeah.
With 100K TPS, which we just showed like yesterday to get there.
Years.
There had to be years of work to get there. So I don't blame them, but it's just the timing of it. Like, you know, everybody was busy, like they doing their own stuff. I had this vision that, you know, scaling Polkadot education is beneficial, and then I had to go through with it on my own.
Wow.
So thankfully, I got like treasure of a content from Simon from Key Pictures.
Yeah.
So he was with the Polkadot ecosystem for I don't know when, since like 2016
Very
or
early,
even
yeah.
like before, right? So I had the access to the behind the code original content.
Oh, okay.
So I got it from him, and then I watched probably like 30 hours of footage, you know, and also like edited it, right? So in watching the 30 hours of footage, which featured Gavin Wood, Robert Habermeyer, Sean, Kian, and you know, Jeff, Alistair, it was almost like I was talking to them. You know, I was the interviewer, and then they are the ones who are answering. And with that, I've really gained a lot of like trust into like all these thought leaders in the Polkadot ecosystem. So I'm already sold. I'm like, this is great. This needs to get out there. A lot more people should get access to, you know, this lengthy format as well, not just like the snippets from the documentary. So I put the course out there on Polkadot. It has...
And the course is made up of pieces of the documentary?
Correct. Mostly.
Oh, that's amazing.
And then whatever content was missing, I recreated that and then posted it. Now the edX courses have around 15,000 learners.
Great.
No marketing, very organic way of like discovering the content.
Amazing.
And that's the kind of talent that we want to attract into the ecosystem, right? Like we don't want to like just shill everything and then get like the wrong vibes. So we want people who are actually interested in the vision and willing to like build on top of that vision.
Now the second part of your question, your day-to-day today.
One-on-one thing that you asked. So I did that. And yes, I still am the technical educator at lead at the Web3 Foundation. So then I think I've spent a lot more time doing like these sessions that you mentioned. I talk to enterprise. I talk at the universities. I give like keynotes at conferences. I do a lot of like online tutorials, webinars. People just book my calendar, and then I'm available for them, to introduce Polkadot.
Oh, so this is your day. Like you look at your calendar and what do I have to talk about today?
Yeah, book a session, and I'm gonna speak. So that.
What's your favorite topic to speak on? Or maybe another question is, who's your favorite target audience to educate?
Because I sometimes like miss the university setting. I think a university classroom is so powerful, right? So you have these genuine seekers of knowledge who set aside all their like biases. They want to listen to you for that 1 hour. And then walk out of the classroom with their own like inferences. So I feel that's the kind of audience that I want to talk to. And in fact, I'm like a teaching professor in the University of Vermont. But what Polkadot did to me was even bigger, right? So I was able to lecture at Stanford, in February at this course that deals with like data authenticity. So I was invited to speak about the blockchain aspect of it, right? So it was great to introduce like the whole blockchain technology stack in general. And also because I'm from Polkadot, I also slipped in a little bit of Polkadot in there. It was great to interact with all those students, like really digging deeper into like the specifics of like what we've built. So that's the audience that I'm always like up for like engaging.
Beautiful.
It's not just about like knowledge pursuit. As I learned, I was a nerd, doing this PhD or teaching like students, but in Polkadot, I've learned a lot about like business and marketing aspect of stuff as well.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's the thing, right? Like you say, I'm present on Twitter or X. The reason is because I got a push that, hey, we know that you teach. That's great, but you should also connect with like a broader audience and, improve your public image. And that's something like Polkadot really trained me over these last 3 years. So now I can sit in a room of like VCs, or I can sit in a room with like enterprise, sit in a room with like hardcore developers, bring them on. Like, I should be able to speak to them eye to eye in the language that they understand. And so
brilliant.
And that's why, like you mentioned, my title is Web3 interpreter.
An interpreter really depends not only on the knowledge you have, but who you're talking to, right? And the knowledge they have.
There are professors, and then there are good teachers. Who are also like professors. So this part, like the good teachers always think of like the audience first, and then cater. It could be the same slides, but the way you frame and then explain stuff, it differs from like audience to audience.
Sure.
And I'm happy that I'm more on this side. So somehow I've gained that skill where looking at the audience, I'm able to connect with them at a level, and then sort of like talk to them on the concepts that could actually make them get the thing that I want to convey.
As a truth seeker yourself, are there any aspects of the technology that are falling short of being this ultimate source of truth, this ultimate stone that we can set?
Yeah, definitely there's an accessibility issue.
Accessibility.
So even for the Polkadot Technical Fellowship, who have actually created, all this technology stack, there are times when they make mistakes on submitting a governance proposal. Right. So we created a great like infrastructure. I think now we are at the point where we have to make it more accessible. So let's say you wanted to start like a DAO for like media friends, So now that you've occupied a significant like mind share of like the media and like Polkadot. Let's say you wanted to start like a DAO. I know you have a DAO, like KusDAO.
KusDAO,
Right. So think of what you'd like to see in KusDAO, and think of like how accessible the blockchain tech is out there.
It's
to
tough.
give you that level of we need to work on that.
It's holding us back.
I agree. You need to bridge that, and this is the thing, right? That's why I say we have to inspire people there's a story that says if you want someone to build a ship, don't tell them the schema or specifics, but just inspire them on what can you do with that ship. And they go and then sort of like build that ship for you.
Sure.
Now, because everybody perceives us as a scam, not many builders who are like very design forward or very accessible, we're not getting like the right talent to build those apps. You can't ask like a core developer to build an interface. It'll be terrible. I'm saying like, you know,
Sure.
it's definitely going to be a disaster for someone who like to use it.
Yeah.
You have to inspire these people who are passionate about like, you know, making things accessible. And the thing is, for them, you need someone, a Web3 interpreter, to explain like what is available and you know, how you make that connection. So I think we are at that point now because like the underlying infrastructure is mature. And I keep bringing this again and again in this interview. 100K TPS is good enough. You know, Visa and MasterCard like serve billions of people.
Yeah.
With this level of like bandwidth. So we are there with the backbone infrastructure.
Crazy.
Now with the massive online programs like PBAX, which I'm working on very closely with Polkadot Blockchain Academy, the idea is to attract these diverse audience, sell them the vision of blockchain, sell them the vision of Polkadot, sell them the vision of truth in general, right? And then show them there's more to this ecosystem and technology than just being used for memes or scams. So this is such a raw technology, just like internet, that could be shaped into like whatever you envision your application to be. So I think that is where this massive scaling like online education programs will make a difference, because you know, you click a button and you see like Gav introducing like Web3 to you.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of difference for someone who's trying to like learn about you know, what we're doing here, right?
Beautiful.
So
Yeah. I think part of this accessibility is going to be solved now because we've been working so much on the really deep infrastructure. If you want to be part of Polkadot, you're going to have to launch your own blockchain and all this stuff. But now we're going to go back a little bit, work on this hub concept. So we have a little bit more of an easier, more accessible ramp.
Yeah.
Probably not to the scale you're talking about, but still accessible at least to the people who are already here.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think Ethereum has done a phenomenal job, like, you know, selling the vision of like Web3.
Yeah.
There are significantly larger number of like developers, or the ecosystem is like really big. And there were like plenty of ideas that were translated into smart contracts.
Yeah.
Now Polkadot is giving like an on-ramp for those smart contracts.
So cool.
To run on this 100K TPS you know, machine that we've built. And I think that makes a difference, right?
Totally.
So good UI, good UX with like good infrastructure, you know, good application overall. And now you can think of bringing social media, or someone was talking about like Uber on blockchain, which is fair. It brings back to the fairness that I mentioned earlier.
Cutting out that middleman.
Exactly. Yeah. So Uber, it's a good app. I use it like even
all the time,
here in Barcelona.
Sure.
But the point being, they define like how much cut they want to take.
Yeah.
May not be like very fair for the person who actually owns the car, who's putting all the effort.
For sure.
If there is a better technology where, you know, do what like Uber does, but gives the people who are actually working their fair share, that's where like the internet should be moving forward.
Yeah.
And I think Polkadot is in a shape to bring that vision into reality.
As a Web3 interpreter, how are you feeling about Jam? Are you ready to interpret Jam just when you thought you had it?
No.
Okay.
I think, again, like I mentioned, there is white paper and then there is code, right?
Yeah.
So, of course, there's Jam paper, but I'm very interested in seeing like how the code is shaping up.
Yeah.
And that's when I'll make my own inferences on what it can do, what it can't do.
Yeah.
Yes, the white paper can make claims like, you know, there's going to be this, that, but if you look at like how the projects usually progress, there's a lot of iterative development for good. It's not going to be like backing off and then implementing something bad, but definitely there's going to be more to the story and more pieces coming together.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely stay on top of that work and then try to interpret it in the way I can.
Yeah.
Already Gav, I mean, he does like a phenomenal job, right? He's the biggest educator of Polkadot ecosystem.
Sure.
But
he doesn't have that open
locked in.
calendar like you
I
have,
know,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It makes sense, just to amplify that voice. So that's one thing. And I'm also very excited about the short-term thing that we're doing.
Exactly.
The hub.
As you say, lots of room to run even now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's bring all the people, show them like what Polkadot is and what it can be used for.
Yeah.
And then we have Jam like right around the corner.
Yeah.
To take them to the space, right? Space monkeys. And
Perfect. Well, it's very nice to have you on Space Monkeys. I've been wanting to have you on for a while, actually.
Okay.
And perfect opportunity. People can follow you on X. And I think it'd be nice to push out the edX course you did. I'd be interested to see that. I didn't know you cut that out of the...
maybe you weren't my target audience.
I don't think I was, but now, I mean,
Yeah.
you got me interested. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think you should just go to edX.org and then search for Web3X.
There
so
you
that's
go.
where all the Web3 Foundation courses are listed.
All right. Well, really nice to have you on the show, and thanks for being here.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me over.